Hi everybody, it's BethWe in the Koinonia Kitchen, and we're going to do a part 2 of a podcast on making conscious contact. We'll be talking about prayer and meditation. For those of you that haven't heard the first podcast, that's okay, you can listen on in. We have some good, interesting things to talk about. But we're talking about making conscious contact with God as we understood Him. It's directly out of step 11 of the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Whether you have an alcohol or drug problem or eating problem or whatever problem you don't have, don't worry about it. The 12 steps work for everybody. Everybody has something they hold on to a little bit too tightly that would help them if they could let it go. And one of the steps to that is step 11. So what's our goal today? At the first podcast, I gave you the goals for this whole podcast series. And I'm going to give them again. The first one is to maintain our spiritual condition. And the second goal of these podcasts is to create intimate and mindful engagement with the one who has all power. We're in a world where we are powerless over so many things. It's really great to have a working relationship with the one who has all power. Again, in this podcast, I will be referring to the higher power with masculine pronouns. If that offends you, please don't let it substitute in your mind whatever it is you like to hear. But I'm going to just make it go that way because I'll be able to talk freely and not try to suspend myself fixing that. In one of the books, The 12 Steps and the 12 Traditions, published by Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill Wilson was talking about what a human being needs to survive. We're going to start there today. He said air, light, and food were needed for all human beings to survive. He used this understanding to launch a metaphor for the survival of the human spirit, or better said, the maintenance of our human spirit. I'm going to read a little bit from that book. Those of us who have come to make regular use of prayer would no more do without it than we would refuse air, food, or sunshine. And for the same reason, when we refuse air, light, or food, the body suffers. And when we turn away from meditation and prayer, we likewise deprive our minds, our emotions, and our intuitions of vitally needed support. As the body can fail its purpose for lack of nourishment, so can the soul. We all need the light of God's reality, the nourishment of His strength, and the atmosphere of His grace. To an amazing extent, the facts of AA life confirm this ageless truth. If you want to look up that quote, you'll find it in the 12 and 12 on page 98. But let's reveal this metaphor. Let's take it apart a little bit. So the light, Bill called that God's reality. So in 12-step, God's reality refers to a personal spirit experience of a higher power. It's a spiritual experience. It's not defined by any specific religion, but it is an ultimate reality greater than the person seeking recovery. How do you get it? You find it through diligent self-searching and surrender. And what do you want it for? It provides strength so that you can recover beyond your ego. It really is the God as we understood Him concept. So God's reality, that metaphor, it's referring to a personal spiritual experience of God that you find on your own, one that is comfortable for you. And that is going to be the light that you need to maintain your spiritual condition. So let's keep revealing this metaphor that Bill used. Food. What does he mean by food? He called it the nourishment of God's strength. That comes from recognizing that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. One of the quotes that many people listening know well is, "No human power can relieve our alcoholism, but God could and would if He were sought." That comes out of the Big Book, and it's a direct quote that people read after reading the 12 steps. So the nourishment, the food that we're seeking, is God's strength, the part that we can't do alone, that we can connect with as long as we look to the higher power. That's the food that's going to help us maintain our spiritual condition. So let's continue to reveal the metaphor. Air, the atmosphere of God's grace. So the atmosphere of God's grace refers to a spiritual environment of unconditional love. It refers to a spiritual environment of acceptance, even unearned favor, where you can be imperfect and still be safe, where you can admit defeat and still be wanted, and where you can say, I am weak, and find the strength you need to get through the situation you find yourself in. That is the atmosphere of grace. My brother Jimmy sent me a thing years ago, and it had 3 definitions. The definitions were definitions that told you about God. They were justice, mercy, and grace. And the way this was written, it said justice. You get what you deserve. That's who God is. And then the person started to seek the higher power, and they found mercy, and they went, wow, you don't get what you deserve with God. And then finally, as the relationship blossomed, where the conscious contact became just a way of life, they found grace. You get what you don't deserve. That's God. So that's what we're talking about here. The food, the light, the air. These are parts of the maintenance program of our spiritual condition. Do you want an unshakable foundation for life? Because according to that same page 98 in the 12 and 12 of Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a direct linkage among self-examination, meditation, and prayer. When logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. I wanted that. I read that in that book so many years ago, and I thought, that's what I want, an unshakable foundation for life. Have you ever been driving and you have a cup of hot coffee in your hand and you're hoping you don't hit any bumps? You hope that the foundation for where you're driving is solid and smooth so that the coffee doesn't jerk and burn you as it spills on your knee, on your hand, on your dashboard, on anywhere you have it. It's an unshakable foundation for life. I want that with my life. I don't want the petty concerns, the financial insecurity, the relational problems that I have, the egocentric ideas that I come up. I don't want those to shake the foundation of my life. So how can I get that unshakable foundation? According to 12-step, I combined self-examination, meditation, and prayer. How did I do it? In my life, I began to journal. And I created a journal that practices steps 10 and 11 together. I call it the Spiritual Heat Journal. There's many things on my website about the Spiritual Heat Journal. But really quickly, I'm going to tell you there are 4 things I write in my journal every day, and they take me right through self-examination, prayer, and meditation. You ready? Heat stands for each one. H is for honor. I praise my higher power. I sing to my higher power. I talk about things like one of the things I use a lot is James Taylor, How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. I might write the words of that song or part of the words. E is for examine. I look at my last 24 hours. Where were my wins and my losses? When was I my highest self and when was I my lowest self? And what could I do to improve? So I examine in the second step. And then A is for ask. I ask for what I need. I ask for what my loved ones need. I ask for what my nation needs. I ask for what my fellowship needs. Whatever it is, whoever I want to pray for, whoever I want to ask for grace, this is the place I do it. And then I tie that journaling session up with T for thank. And I write a short gratitude list. In my life, I've tried to write 5 new things for which I'm grateful every day, never repeating one. I'll tell you what, if you do that and you're right with it, you will get to see the world in a completely different way, because you will notice the nuances of this world, because you're looking for 5 new things for which to be grateful. Any pointers I can give you? I would say be intentional about this discipline. Don't let it be a checklist, something you do every day. Check, my spiritual condition is maintained. It won't work. So must be intentional. Set aside a specific time to connect with God as you understand Him. Maybe nights are better for you. Maybe mornings are better for you. Maybe you get a break in the afternoon. But have a set time where you've prioritized that time for your relationship with God. And the last thing I'd say, create a sacred place of your own. You know what that means. A sacred place. Sitting at my kitchen counter is a sacred place. I go to an old church in our town when there's no one in it. Sometimes I'll go there. There's a park I like with a bench that overlooks the river. I love that. Some people go to the forest, the ocean. Some people use nature to find their sacred space. Some people find it cozied up in a chair in the corner of their room. Make it your space, and maybe have more than one, just in case you need to move it around a little bit. Because if you're intentional about working steps 10 and 11 together, it's a promise. You're promised an unshakable foundation for life. If you've never tried a prayer journal before, give it a go. I can't tell you how many people have been affected by working the Spiritual Heat Journal. I have people all the time coming up and telling me that it really changed their life. So making conscious contact, we're going to talk more about it on the next podcast. But for now, I want you to remember that this is an ongoing, lifelong journey. You're creating a relationship with the higher power. You might be speaking to the higher power very formally at first, and within years you'll be talking to him like he's your best friend. Just give yourself time. Make it a priority. Remember the 4 things: connection, communication, consistency, and make it a priority. We'll be back in a little bit with part 3. I hope you're feeling better because you had a listen. Good Seed Podcast is powered by the BethWe nonprofit ministry based in Vero Beach, Florida. Our goal is to start the uncomfortable conversations that turn complacency into action and despair into hope. Connect, communicate, and thrive with us. Check us out online at BethWe.com.